Hello everyone, it's Types, and today I'm going to be covering some of my most interesting decks I've ever made. These all, I believe, are decks made by me. Some of them have obviously been inspired by other things, but these are all lists that I created the 60 of and stuff like that. So, that I've covered on my channel as well, and I think some of you have seen quite a few of these as well. They're pretty cool. I'm not going to link all the lists or like the videos. A lot of these aren't super optimized. But the first one here is going to be Arceus with some interesting stuff. So Arceus V-Star. I don't know why I have this art, but it is what it is. And so it says pretty much you accelerate your energy and then to a Pokemon V. And that's the main part we're focusing on here. The Star Breath ability does allow you to set up pretty well as well. But then you accelerate energy to Mimikyu V. So, and by the way, this combo is all, pretty much this whole list is still available in standard. I'm in no quick ball, which is a bit annoying, but Mimikyu V pretty much is invincible when you put it into play. It does have an attack you can use, which is fine, but the main part is the invincibility you get on play, which is just so good. Meaning that you accelerate to Mimikyu, your opponent just like looks at it and can't do anything. Actually, no, this deck doesn't work because the main attacker rotated, but yeah, then you have Evoltal Amazing Rare for Fire, Psychic, Dark, Colorless. Your opponent's active is now just instantly knocked out. Of course, you can't accelerate to this with Arceus, but you accelerate to the Mimikyu, turn the Mimikyu into Evoltal using Thorn. So that's the idea of the deck. It's really weird and pretty inconsistent, unsurprisingly. But you could try something similar to this with a different attacker. People used to... This deck quickly became obsolete with the next set. I was thinking what list this was in. It was for Lost Origin for Thornton. But then the next set, obviously, with Lugia that came out in Silver Tempest. So then at that point, you just accelerate a bunch of Aurora energies to your Evoltal, and it wasn't as crazy anymore. But now that you don't actually have Aurora energy, you could try this again. Obviously not with the Evoltal, but with whatever attacker you feel like. You could do Arceus into Mimikyu into possibly some EX. I don't think there's any crazy EXs, but you know, it's still a possibility, and so I think this is a cool idea. Honestly, this is just like a generic Arceus list as well. This deck was very solid. You could go for the Sharon's Care route. You could even use Thornton in other situations, which is kind of cool, and it had Disruption. It's a pretty, like, generic list still, but it's a really cool one, and I'd recommend you, I don't know, honestly, you could play this in, like, Expanded if you wanted, which is fine. It's probably not great in Expanded, but it's a thing you could do. But also, it's like a fun concept to mess around with the Mimikyu Arceus stuff. It's not bad at all. You could even use this with just other attackers. Next up, we have Mew VMAX, of course, with its like attacks and stuff. That's very good with Genesect. I play Oricorio on this list. No Meloetta, because we actually have a secondary attacker with Beedrill. I've talked about this Beedrill actually very recently, possibly in a video from a few days ago is a stage 2 that's good, but you get it into play using Mustard. It instantly KOs Pokemon with special energy. You say I love instant KOs. And Mew Genesect, this list does not have massive amounts of burst power, unlike certain Meloetta builds. So, or one-shotting power, I should say. It doesn't have the burst power either, but now you can go with Beedrill, and then you can use stuff like Forest Seal Stone and things like that to just go ahead and do really big pushes in the game when your opponent's not expecting it. And obviously you play some grass energy, you play Mustard, stuff like that. But this deck is so fun, and the really powerful Genesect engine actually kind of opens this up a bit, and I'd say this deck, it might actually be viable now. No Quick Ball is not great for the deck, but you still have Cramomatic and obviously Ultra Ball as well. So this is a deck that I also recommend you try out. Again, not necessarily the best thing in the world, but pretty fun as well. And I mean, obviously this is just a showcase of some cool decks. Next up, I think this is my most viewed video. It might be second, I don't remember. This deck's kind of bad. If you've seen the video, I got kind of lucky, but it's not good. So, it's really funny though. It only plays one basic, as I was saying. You can cheat out Beedrill and then also Cinderace using Mustard. But then you can use a Luxray. Luxray, if it's a basic, or sorry, if it's in your hand, it functions as a basic at the start of the game for setup. So you can just put it into play. Only as you're active, you can't put them on the bench. But you can stick Luxray in your active, and then hopefully you start this. That's why it only plays one basic, allowing you to search for trainers, and then hopefully allowing you to search for the trainers like Mustard and then Ultra Ball or whatever you need to thin your hand down to nothing. Yeah, pretty much that's the whole idea of the deck. Then you go ahead and you Mustard, get Cinderace into play. I have some other Cinderace decks, but Cinderace does big damage, especially at the point at which your opponent's taking a number of prizes. It can one-shot stuff. And then you can play the Mustard. Obviously, you can play Magma Mason to accelerate energy. Yeah, and that's about it. But the deck it's interesting. It's not good, but it's interesting. Look, it plays Quick Ball, which is really funny because you need Quick Ball to get Mustard, but also you only have one basic, so it only gets Radiant Charizard. If you start Radiant Charizard, you probably just lose, and also you can't get the Fire Energies in the discard particularly easily. You obviously can Quick Ball and Ultra Ball. Maybe it was easier than I thought, but you don't have like Radiant Greninja. Radiant Greninja might actually be better than Radiant Charizard, but this is like a silly deck, but it's pretty a funny idea. There will be a better Mustard list later on. But then I wanted to try Luxray again. With its ability to start the game was really interesting. Then I was just thinking you want a deck with very few basic Pokemon. So Dracozolt V and VMAX is honestly a solid option for that. So Dracozolt, I'm actually going to talk about this soon in an upcoming video. But if it's hit into, your opponent takes a bunch of damage. It's really annoying to deal with and it's very powerful. So I just paired the two together. It's just a very simple deck. And you have Speed, Lightning Energy to work with both of them. That's since rotated, but you would Speed Lightning to just draw a bunch of cards. The deck's not, again, the best deck in the world, but it's pretty solid, honestly. I think this Luxray deck is like, it's not bad at all. This is one of the best ways to play Luxray, if not the best way to play Luxray. I experimented with a few different things, and this one just seemed the best. Next up, we have my Oranguru control. I made a lot of videos about Crown Zenith with some weird decks. And for some reason, this deck did not have the list in the video. So if you need that, I can give it to you, but it's nothing special. There's another Oranguru control list, again, that we're going to take a look at. But this one focuses around Oranguru as the only attacker here, which attacks primary acting. You choose a supporter from your opponent's discard and use the effect of that card as this attack. So the idea is that hopefully your opponent plays a supporter, and notably Boss's Orders. You just use Boss's Orders over and over on them again, so you can essentially use 2 supporters every turn. If you've seen the Mimikyu control video and expanded, it's a similar idea. This is obviously standard. Not all the cards are standard, but the Oranguru and the supporters pretty much all are. So you could do that. It's out of your control, though, which is kind of annoying. But it's an interesting deck and a really funny concept. Now with Iono, you can actually use Iono a lot because most opponents will play that against control because they want to mess with you. But then you can use your Iono of your own. Losing Capture Energy is also kind of bad. Gift Energy is still like very good, but losing Capture is annoying. Yeah, and that's about it. But this deck is funky. But then we have, this is the other Oranguru control deck. We have the Oranguru, we have Calyrex. This was, I believe, a combination of suggestions from viewers, notably you have Calyrex here, to search the deck for 2 cards. This is a Ditto box deck, so you have Ditto to copy various basics, Yveltal to remove special energies from play, Oranguru. So Yveltal is really good at this time because UV Max was just like everywhere. And then Oranguru here, as I said, Calyrex, Regieleki to recover stuff, and Jinx for Gust plus Confusion. My Miltank also is a wall, and then Ralt itself can also wall by stopping your opponent from using one of their attacks, and then obviously have Curlia to draw as well, which is really important. You still got this solid counter supporters like Boss and Misfortune Sisters to annoy your opponent, as well as Avery, Roseanne's backup, Roxanne, stuff like that. And Galarmine. Galarmine was also very important. Just the other list I play on Galarmine. Give me a second. I don't know why Limitless is being weird. No, this one played Path instead. But Galarmine was really good. Definitely one of the biggest losses from rotation, in my opinion. Obviously, there were some other big ones, but Galarmine was super good for control as well. It like really enabled control. There are some moderately similar cards, but nothing quite to the same extent. Although I might need to try it. There's like Calamitous Wasteland or something. I don't think that's the name of the card, but there's something like that, which also increases victory cost of basics. Not as good, but it's still all right. Next up, we have my favorite deck that I've made, or one of my favorite decks I've made, that being another Ditto box, but this is a spread-based box. First of all, you have the Inteleon engine, which I miss dearly now that the engine, like I've been playing more Pokemon and I'm realizing that decks are very inconsistent now, which is a bit sad, but it is what it is. And then you have the Drizzles and Inteleons to search, and then you have the Inteleon to ping, and Inteleon actually has an attack for 2 colors. It does 70, which is important sometimes, which is kind of funny because it's actually your biggest attack in the deck that's 1 energy. But you have Ditto to copy Spinda, Reshiram, Mimikyu, and Spectrier. Also, Radiant Alakazam has an interesting attack. First of all, its ability lets you move damage counters around the board, which can be very, very important. Then Mind Ruler, it does 20 for each card in your opponent's hand. Again, this can be important. You can Raihan and then attach to just do a massive amount of damage against certain decks. For example, Lost Zone, this will certainly be a very solid attacker. And then you also have, I'll talk about the individual attackers now, but actually check this video out. It's a really, really fun deck to play and really complicated as well. But Spinda here is the main attacker, I guess. It does 10 to each of your opponent's Pokemon and also confuses the active. So obviously confusion is very good because, well, it's not very good, but it's pretty good. It's annoying to have to deal with. In addition to dealing a solid chunk of damage, I mean, it does only like 60, but it spreads it around. It's pretty all right. The confusion is very annoying to deal with while you're just being messed up by other things. You also have Gapeshot Bog to boost damage. Then Reshiram here does 20 to each your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is, by the way, the main reason that this deck cannot play double Turbo Energy, because then you would be doing no damage. But instead you use Reshiram to do 20 to each of them, which is super annoying to have to deal with again, because obviously I'm just dealing... again, you can do like 100 with this, so that's pretty good. You would like to confuse them first with Spinda, though. And then you have Spectre here. Choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon to put 2 damage counters on each of them. This does less than Reshiram. It can hit the active, but also probably less than Spinda. However, it can hit through Manaphy. So that's the main use of this card when your opponent's playing Manaphy. And you can also use Phantom Strike 120 for 3 here. And then it can't use Phantom Strike next turn, which isn't a huge deal, especially because you'll probably be copying it with Ditto. So you want to keep that in mind. And then last, but certainly not least, the most powerful Pokemon in the deck is Mimikyu. First of all, you can confuse for 1 Psychic, obviously worse than Spinda, but sometimes in a pinch you might need to use this. And it's not the worst. But speaking of worst, the second attack here, Worst Gift, does for Psychic Colorless 10 for each damage counter on all your opponent's Pokemon. So while this is a spread-based deck, at the end of the game it is a one-shotting deck. So if your opponent has, say, like 30 damage counters on them, you can pretty much just like one-shot anything, which is really absurd. And all this damage that normally in a spread deck is just kind of wasted is now fueling your attack of Mimikyu. And that's why I really love this one. And then it has Raihan. This deck's really hard to play. Obviously, you can't play it anymore, but the Raihan is so important. But at the end of the day, you also need to use your other supporters a lot. This is one of my favorite decks, if not my favorite deck ever to play. Probably not my favorite, but it's really cool. Next up, we have the better mustard deck I was talking about earlier. This is not like absurdly good. It's a bit I don't know, it's kind of a weird deck, but it's pretty good. It doesn't have as many like strong principal cards, so it's very much focused on showcasing the idea of Mustard, but you can tack parts of this into your deck to make it more efficient. First of all, you have Altaria, which stacks your deck with a supporter, and Squovit says shuffle your hand, put it on the bottom of your deck, and draw that singular supporter. Notably, that supporter will be Single Strike and Mustard. That's the only supporter we play here. And then you just go ahead, play that Mustard, and grab out the Cinderace or Beedrill I mentioned earlier. We have the Magma Basin, stuff like that. Oh, no, this is the deck that couldn't discard. Yeah, this is the deck that I need Radiant Ninja because you can't discard the Fire Energies, which is kind of problematic in the game. This is the one where I got lucky. So this is very solid. It uses Impact Energy. As I said, you want some way of discarding your energies, but aside from that, the deck's very solid. Also, I don't know why it plays 2 different arts of Pokemon Catcher. No, 3 different arts of Pokemon Catcher. That's kind of weird, but it's funny, too. Or Cop Prince, not arts. Yeah, this is a weird looking list, but this is 100% one of my like my best performing videos, and it's a really funny deck. This is actually a post rotation deck as well. I think the rest of the decks are post rotation, but this one's really funny, kind of silly as well, but actually very consistent with the Altaria Squovit combo. But then, obviously, the hard part is to attack with Cinderace, because you need the energy and the discard, and you need some combos. But Altaria does give you a pivot for your treat, just like the Luxray, but the Altaria is a bit better, as it offers a lot of consistent benefit. Next up, we have a Zoroark box, and this one's really cool. First of all, it centers around arm moves, moving energy from your bench Pokemon to your active, Fire Energy. So you can accelerate using Magma Basin, then move it to the active. The main combo, I guess, is you accelerate to Radiant Heatran, which builds up a lot of damage, and then later on, you move the energy off, then later on, Radiant Heatran can just one-shot anything. You also have Arcanine EX is a very solid fire attacker. It is kind of awkward. It is definitely your main attacker as well. Then you have Hisuian Arcanine, which is, so it's a double Arcanine deck, which is kind of fun. If you have no cards in hand, you hit Fighting Weakness, which was actually quite strong at the time. Medina hit Dark Weakness, Slowbro to take prizes at the end of the game. This is one of my favorite Zoroark boxes to play. It's not the best. It kind of breaks the traditional one energy principle of Zoroark decks, but It's still a really cool deck. Again, kind of inconsistent. I think I put another Miriam in this list at some point, but yeah, this is 100% a really cool deck. Check out my video on it and also play the deck. It's really cool. Again, it's not optimized, but if you could optimize it, I promise it is very solid. You may need to change a bunch of things around though, and you could put in the new special energy Luminous Energy as well. And now my final deck, and one of my favorite decks that I made. This is actually a very much mostly like a modification of an existing deck, but it's a Choi control deck. So you have Snorlax to stall stuff out, Manaphy, and the way you hit Manaphy is using Choi. Each player reveals their hand and draws, and then you draw 3 cards. Revealing your hand to your opponent isn't actually a huge deal, especially because you draw cards after that. And assuming your opponent like kind of knows what's going on, revealing your hand won't reveal actually that much important info. And then you can also just go ahead and heal stuff. I think this Volo should be a penny. But aside from that, this list is really funny. You got Pidgeot and Rotom for like various control things. I'd say just like a control deck, but it's a really fun deck to play and a really silly one as well. It's not like the best deck in the game. There are more things you can make to complicate the deck a little to make it a bit better. But this is my favorite. Like, I really love Choi in this deck. It's not amazing, but it definitely has the ability to allow you to hit Manaphy easier and also to just kind of know what your opponent's got, which is really important for control players because then you know if they have switch or boss or outs to different things, and you can just kind of prepare for that. You could do Sydney, but Sydney is not great, because like drawing 3 cards is pretty nice as well. So honestly, people put like Avery in decks and stuff like that, but I think Choi is just better than Avery. But tell me which of these decks you think is your favorite as well, and if there are other decks you want me to talk about, ideas you have that you want me to make, because I love making decks. I haven't made too many crazy decks recently, but I enjoy it, and as always, I'm excited to see you next time.